All right, so today we're diving into a world that's, let's just say it's bold and provocative. You guys sent us two audio files from a self-proclaimed seduction guru.
A seduction guru.
Yeah, guru, that's what he calls himself. His name is Gary Brodsky. And I got to say, some of this stuff is pretty cringe-inducing.
Oh, I'm intrigued.
Now, before we go any further, I want to be clear that we are not here to endorse Brodsky's methods. In fact, some of them are downright eyebrow-raising, to say the least.
I can imagine. So what's the point of this deep dive then?
I think dissecting these techniques, even the questionable ones, can teach us a lot about how ideas about masculinity and psychology and societal expectations all get tangled up in this whole pursuit of seduction.
I see. So it's like holding up a funhouse mirror to dating culture. Yeah.
Exactly. We can analyze that distorted image and maybe learn something about the reality behind it. What do you say?
Let's dive in.
Okay, so Gary Brodsky, he lays out 40 techniques in these recordings. 40.
Wow, that's a lot.
And he claims they can turn any guy into a seduction machine. His core philosophy is that attracting women is all about rigorous training.
Rigorous training. Like we're talking about preparing for a marathon here.
Pretty much. He even talks about having a training montage like you'd see in a cheesy action movie.
Okay, that framing is interesting. It definitely suggests that seduction is a skill to be mastered, a competition to be won. I mean, it makes you wonder what kind of prize this training is ultimately aiming for. Is it genuine connection or something a lot more superficial?
Good point, because real connection should be a two-way street,
Right.
right? But some of Brodsky's techniques seem more focused on control and manipulation. To make a sense of it all, I started grouping his 40 techniques into clusters: confidence building, manipulation, breaking social norms, and physicality.
That's smart. Breaking it down like that makes it easier to digest.
So let's start with confidence building, since Brodsky really hammers on this idea that confidence is like the magic key to attraction. He even has this one technique where he tells guys to wear clothes that they don't normally wear, clothes with no history.
Interesting. So he's saying create a new persona, but is that real confidence or just a facade?
Right. Wouldn't real confidence involve just embracing who you actually are?
Hmm.
You know, fashion mishaps and all that.
Exactly. True confidence should come from within. It's about self-acceptance, not trying to play a role or projecting an image that isn't really you. Brodsky's technique might work as like a temporary band-aid for insecurity, but it's not a path to genuine confidence.
It makes you wonder about his other techniques.
Like what?
Well, he also suggests picking fights with telemarketers, demanding discounts at stores, and even answering calls from people you'd rather avoid.
He really wants these guys to be confrontational, huh?
He frames it as a way to, like, feel more in control, to push back against the world. And I get it. Assertiveness can be a healthy trait, but there's a fine line between assertiveness and just being aggressive.
Totally. It seems like Brodsky's blurring that line a bit.
Yeah, he's suggesting that dominance is the key to confidence. But what does that kind of dominance really achieve? Does it actually help you build healthy communication skills, or does it just create unnecessary conflict?
Good question. It seems like that approach could easily backfire.
And speaking of dominance, his whole view of masculinity seems stuck in a bit of a time warp. There's this heavy emphasis on traditionally macho activities like buying a samurai sword, joining a martial arts school, even smashing stuff to release aggression.
It's very, shall we say, retro.
It's like he pulled these ideas straight out of a 1980s action movie montage.
It's a very specific and I'd argue limited view of what it means to be masculine. Like it equates manhood with physical strength and aggression and completely ignores the emotional depth and complexity that are essential for building healthy relationships.
Right. It's like he's saying, suppress your emotions, be a stoic warrior. But how can you connect with another person if you're not even in touch with yourself?
Exactly. It's like trying to build a house on a foundation of sand.
Then there's this technique where he tells guys to dance, but only alone, to feel more comfortable in their bodies. Now, on the surface, that sounds kind of liberating, right?
Yeah, I can see that.
But then he links it back to becoming more attractive to women. It's like even something as personal as dancing is only valuable if it helps you get the girl.
That's a great observation. It's like every aspect of a man's self-expression gets filtered through this lens of how will this help me get women? It creates all this pressure to perform, to always be on.
Ugh, it's exhausting just thinking about it.
And it begs the question, where's the space for genuine self-discovery? For exploring your passions and interests simply for the joy of it? Because those are the things that actually make you a unique and interesting person, the kind of person who can connect with others on a deeper level.
Okay, so we've unpacked some of Brodsky's confidence-building techniques, and, well, some of them were a little shaky, to say the least.
Definitely room for improvement.
But we haven't even touched on the manipulation cluster. And trust me, listener, things are about to get even more complicated. Okay, so we're back and ready to dive into some of Brodsky's more, let's say, advanced techniques.
At advanced, you mean manipulative, right?
Well, yeah, we're getting into the manipulation cluster now, and trust me, this is where things get really ethically questionable.
I'm ready. Bring on the funhouse mirror.
All right, so one technique that jumps out immediately is his instruction to lie your ass off. Seriously, that's what he calls it.
Wow, subtle.
He even says something like, all women think men are liars anyway, so what the hell do you care? It's such a cynical view of both men and women, don't you think?
Totally. It's like he's saying dishonesty is just a standard tool in the seduction toolbox.
And it's based on this assumption that all men are inherently untrustworthy and all women are naive and gullible. I mean, talk about a recipe for disaster.
Right. It's like he's advocating for building relationships on a foundation of deceit. How could that possibly lead to anything healthy?
Now, to be fair, he does say that you shouldn't lie about things like your job or how much money you make, but instead focus on telling the woman how special and unique she is.
Okay, but even if what you're saying is technically true, if it's not coming from a genuine place, it's still manipulation, isn't it?
Totally. It's like using flattery and insincere compliments as a way to, I don't know, like lower someone's guard.
Exactly. It's a tactic to try to manufacture a false sense of intimacy and connection, to make someone more susceptible to your advances. But that kind of emotional manipulation can really damage someone's self-esteem and their ability to trust in future relationships.
And then there's this technique where he suggests pushing boundaries by making sexually suggestive comments really early on, almost like as a test.
Oh boy, I can see where this is going.
He argues that this prevents you from ending up in the dreaded platonic zone.
Oh, the horror.
Right. It's like he's saying, if you're not aggressively pursuing a physical relationship, then you're somehow failing.
Which is a ridiculous and harmful notion, and completely disregards the importance of consent and respecting someone's boundaries. I mean, imagine how uncomfortable and unsafe that would make someone feel.
Yeah, it's not exactly a recipe for building trust and rapport.
Not at all.
He even suggests using unsolicited physical touch, like giving a massage or something, as a way to, and I'm quoting here, open up her defenses. And then while she's vulnerable, boom, you make a move like going in for a kiss.
Seriously, that's crossing a major line. It's like he's saying it's okay to use physical touch as a tactic to wear down someone's resistance, which is never okay. Consent is an ongoing conversation, not just a one-time obstacle to overcome.
Yeah, it's disturbing, to say the least.
Yeah.
And it plays into this idea that men should always be on the hunt and women are just objects to be conquered. It completely devalues the idea of genuine emotional connection.
Absolutely.
Now, get ready for this, because this is where things get really weird. Brodsky actually warns men about the ultimate danger in the dating world. Are you ready for this?
I'm almost afraid to ask.
It's something he calls pussy whipping.
Pussy whipping. Wow, okay. Where do we even begin with that?
Well, he describes it as this process where a man loses himself in a relationship, sacrificing his friends, his interests, his whole identity to please a woman. He paints this picture of a man becoming like a shell of his former self, totally controlled by his manipulative partner.
It sounds like something out of a bad horror movie.
It does, right. It's like he's trying to scare men into staying emotionally detached.
It's such a warped view of relationships, like any level of vulnerability or compromise is a sign of weakness and will inevitably lead to disaster.
And get this, he actually tries to reinterpret the biblical story of Adam and Eve.
Oh, I'm not sure I want to hear this.
He claims that Adam wasn't kicked out of Eden for eating the apple, but for listening to Eve.
Wow, talk about twisting a narrative.
It just plays into this idea that women are these manipulative temptresses, and men need to be constantly on guard to avoid falling under their spell. It completely ignores the idea of equality and mutual respect in a relationship.
And it's ironic, isn't it? Because while he's warning men about being pussy whipped, some of his own techniques actually seem to contribute to the very dynamic he claims to be protecting them from.
That's so true. For example, his whole thing about constantly telling a woman she's special and unique, even if it's not sincere, that could actually create a situation where a man feels pressure to constantly validate and appease his partner.
Right, exactly. It sets up this unhealthy power dynamic.
And by telling men they should never show any vulnerability or express any need for emotional support, he's basically reinforcing this idea that men should always be strong and stoic, even when they're hurting.
Which can actually make them more vulnerable to manipulation because they're not equipped to recognize and address unhealthy dynamics in a relationship.
It's a vicious cycle. He's basically saying the only way to avoid being controlled by a woman is to adopt behaviors that actually make you more susceptible to manipulation. It makes no sense.
It really doesn't. It's like he's advocating for this transactional view of relationships where everything is about control and avoiding vulnerability at all costs.
But wouldn't that just prevent you from experiencing the real joys of a truly intimate and loving relationship?
Absolutely. True intimacy requires trust, vulnerability, and a willingness to let go of control. It's about meeting each other as equals, not trying to constantly manipulate or one-up each other.
So, okay, we've established that Brodsky's advice is pretty messed up. But I think it does raise some interesting questions about the anxieties and insecurities that a lot of men feel about dating and relationships.
I agree. Even though his methods are totally flawed, I think they do offer a glimpse into some of the pressures and fears that can shape men's behavior.
Yeah. So maybe in the next part of our deep dive, we can unpack those anxieties and fears a bit more, and hopefully find a way to address them without resorting to Brodsky's manipulative tactics. What do you think?
I'm in.
So we spent a lot of time with Gary Brodsky and his seduction techniques, and honestly, a lot of it has been kind of cringeworthy.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think there's a deeper layer here that's worth talking about.
I agree. Like, even though his methods are, well, pretty messed up, I think his stuff does tap into a real anxiety that a lot of men feel, you know?
Yeah, like about their place in the world,
Yeah.
with all the changes happening and how men and women are supposed to act and all that.
Right. It's like he's feeding off this fear that men are going to be emasculated or controlled, that they're not careful.
Yeah, it's this whole battle of the sexes mentality. Like the only way to win is to be constantly on guard, always asserting your dominance.
And that fear of losing control, of being seen as weak or feminine, it can be really powerful for a lot of guys.
It's like a leftover from a time when men were supposed to be these stoic providers, suck it up and be tough.
Yeah, suppress your emotions, prioritize strength and dominance above all else. That whole thing.
But the thing is, those expectations don't really work anymore. Not for men, not for women. They just make it harder to connect with each other and have healthy relationships.
It's like trying to jam a square peg into a round hole. It's just not going to work.
And the ironic thing is that by trying so hard to avoid vulnerability and be in control all the time, I think a lot of guys might actually be making themselves more vulnerable to manipulation.
That's a good point. Because if you're always playing a role, putting on this facade of confidence, you're never really letting your guard down.
Right? You're not letting yourself be seen for who you really are, flaws and all.
Exactly. And that keeps you from experiencing the real intimacy and joy that comes from connecting with someone on a deeper level.
That's like you're building a wall around yourself to avoid getting hurt, but you're also blocking out all the good stuff too. So how do we break free from all this? How do we rewrite this whole script and create space for healthy relationships based on respect and being honest with each other?
Well, I think it starts with recognizing that being vulnerable isn't a bad thing. It's actually a strength.
It takes guts to let go of control, to let someone see the real you.
Right. Absolutely. And it means challenging those old ideas about what it means to be a man. You don't always have to be strong and stoic.
It's okay to let yourself feel things, all the feelings, not just the manly ones.
Exactly. And remember that real confidence comes from within. It's about accepting yourself, knowing your worth. It's not about how many women you can seduce.
It's about connecting with another person in an honest and genuine way.
Right. So listener, when you're out there navigating the world of relationships, remember, you don't need a playbook full of tricks and techniques.
You already have everything you need. Be yourself, be honest, and don't be afraid to let people see the real you.
And don't buy into those outdated expectations about how you're supposed to act.
Because real seduction, real connection, it's not about games. It's about two people recognizing and appreciating each other for who they really are.
Keep diving deep, keep questioning everything, and keep searching for that genuine connection.
Until next time.